Well, is Hedera getting ready? Well, at least in terms of their recent McLaren partnership, I think so, hypothetically, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and I'll talk about the price later when it comes to HBAR. However, as we all know, Hedera recently partnered with not only McLaren Racing, but as well as the Aero McLaren IndyCar team. So, Aero McLaren IndyCar team, basically, recently they made a post saying how get ready to meet our 2026 challengers. Now, supposedly, the Aero McLaren team launch is going to happen at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the 4th of February. So, I mean, it's pretty cool, I think, considering how, of course, Hedera is their partner. So, of course, this is going to probably showcase more when it comes to Hedera, just give it more exposure. The thing is this, though, people like to say this is completely irrelevant because take a look at HBAR. As of right now, around 33 times, right? So it's over 30 times lower, slightly, than $3 currently. So it's not looking the best, a lot of people like to tell me. I'm completely aware of this situation. However, I can't deny that this McLaren thing I think is pretty cool. I mean, imagine if this happened like not too long ago when HBAR was doing way better. The sentiment and the vibe and everything like that would be completely different, right? I feel like a lot of this is kind of downplayed a little bit just because HBAR isn't doing the best in terms of price. However, I think fundamentally this is pretty impressive because McLaren, of course, is pretty popular. It's very massive, and a lot of people just generally speaking watch F1, Formula One. So when I take a look at Hedera, I don't think it's such a bad thing after all, what they're doing. However, of course, people often associate the fundamentals with what's going on with the charts, but personally for me, I feel like sometimes it's not necessarily the case because as of right now, a lot of people are leaving. They're exiting. A lot of downwards movements. But it doesn't necessarily mean that if the charts are going down 10%, the project became 10% worse. I don't feel like that is the case personally for me. It's like, for instance, we're seeing a pullback as of right now when it comes to Bitcoin. However, here's the thing. Is the maximum supply of Bitcoin still 21 million? Yeah, it is. That didn't change at all. So what happened? Bitcoin had a pullback. It suddenly became like a couple percent worse. I don't agree with that actually, personally in my mind, even though again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, more specifically when it comes to Hedera, or should I say HBAR, I feel like it kind of has somewhat of that same principle, so to speak, because sure, HBAR is having a pullback. However, did it become like 20 or 30% worse? I don't agree with that actually. I don't think Hedera just fundamentally became bad like that. I feel like the sentiment when it comes to HBAR hasn't been the best, but when it comes to Hedera, if anything, I see them innovating, improving, and having new partnerships, so I don't feel like it became bad, at least personally in my mind. And I think moments like this kind of reminds me that, you know what? I remember the times when HBAR was doing pretty good. As of right now, HBAR is having a pullback, but typically, a lot of people that I know, when something is doing pretty good, they say, oh wow, if only like this project was focused on back when it was not doing the best. But the thing is, that's the most difficult part sometimes, right? Focusing on a project when it's not doing the best because it's easy to give up when everyone's given up. It's easy to just leave when things are not doing the best. However, personally for me, if a lot of people are leaving and the project is being ignored, that's when I want to be focused. That's when I want to be way more focused, I should say, because if let's say things are doing pretty good, it's easy for me to focus on it, but the journey has already happened. Sometimes I like to be a part of the journey, which is why I like to be focused, especially at a time like right now, and just even be more focused than before. I think that's a better way to phrase it. However, if I'm looking for projects that are not using traditional blockchain technology, and they're actually pretty famous, I don't feel like there's that many options as of right now within this space. And I feel like when it comes to Hedera Hashgraph, because it doesn't use traditional blockchain technology, it utilizes something called a directed acyclic graph. And also on top of that, HBAR is just pretty popular still, even with this pullback, in my opinion. It's still like a top 50 project, right? So I feel like if I'm looking for projects that don't have an aspect of traditional blockchain technology, Hedera, I think, arguably is the most popular one to me. And if, let's say, there is that narrative for alternatives beyond traditional blockchain technology for whatever reason during a hypothetical altcoin season, Hedera is literally right there, right? It's literally arguably the most popular. within that specific category I mentioned before. I feel like Hedera already has the key ingredients. That's how I would like to kind of put an analogy when it comes to this. It's like, for instance, it already has the fundamentals. It already has the partnerships. Like, for instance, we see with McLaren Racing, and we take a look at, for instance, what they did with Karate Combat. Also, on top of that, Hedera Hashgraph. It doesn't even use traditional blockchain technology. Furthermore, the governing council, when it comes to Hedera, it even includes something like Google, and also something like, for instance, we take a look at Mondelez, Dell, right? I mean, there's a lot, but I'm just saying. It already has those ingredients. What's missing? Hypothetically, an altcoin season. I think that's pretty much about it. Some projects out there, they haven't fully kind of done the fundamental side of things. They just haven't done that. So if there's hypothetically an altcoin season, they're a little bit underprepared, in my opinion. But when it comes to something like Hedera, the ingredients are already there. There just needs to be that salt. You know what I mean? That Salt Bay. You know, it's like that one chef that does the salt like that. That's the analogy that I would like to put. But yeah, whatever. I think you get what I mean, right? It just kind of like, I feel that there's that one missing ingredient, but Hedera has already done the rest. So I'm just waiting at this point. I'm still thinking about $3, but we'll wait and see. When could hypothetically an altcoin season happen? I have no way of determining that. There's no way I could find out when it could ever even hypothetically happen. There's no way. So what am I going to do? I'm waiting, holding, and staying patient. That's about it. The reason why I don't want to exit, though, is because, sure, people like to tell me HBAR could go lower. Totally aware of that, but I have no need to exit anyways. Like, I don't want to leave anyways, again, when it comes to this. And also, furthermore, if I leave right now, I have just pretty much locked in all of the downwards movements, which I don't really want to do. I don't want to realize all of it because hypothetically, I feel like it's unrealized for me as of right now anyways. Now, this is personally what I'm doing. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, again, this is just my outlook when it comes to Hedera. I just haven't given up. And I'm going to stay patient, and I think that's pretty much about it. But I wanted to make this update to talk about the McLaren partnership when it comes to Hedera because I feel like a lot of people kind of ignored it, but I'm still thinking about it. Well, I think it's kind of easy to ignore it right now, considering how HBAR is doing. But again, I just haven't ignored it, and I'm still a fan when it comes to Hedera. And I think that's pretty much about it. So I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day.